Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with another video today coming to you from Portugal. A feedback video from some of the comments from yesterday's section and a bit of an update on what's going on in Spain at the moment and also here in Portugal. A bit of first-hand news of what's going on here, what I see happening in this part of Portugal, at least here on the Atlantic Ocean, which I have in the background. Now, lots of feedback about the economy. We saw yesterday that the Spanish economy, one of the worst economies in Europe in the last quarter. I think an 18.5% slump, a huge slump for the economy. And a lot of the other countries in the Eurozone, of course, also performing quite badly. Germany, Portugal, of course, Belgium, Italy, but none as bad as Spain. And a lot of people asking themselves the question, what is the problem with the Spanish economy? Obviously, it has a dependence on tourism, it has a dependence on exports, and those are sectors that have been seriously affected over the last few months. But I don't think those are the only factors. There are some underlying factors in the Spanish economy, factors that the government is not willing to fix, and that's the reason for the poor performance, I imagine. We saw that in 2008, the economy also got smashed, took years to recover, and that's what it is all about. How long is it going to take to recover? How many young people are going to have to leave the country looking for an opportunity somewhere else? And unfortunately, I don't know how many countries around the world are going to be able to offer an opportunity for young people that need to emigrate to another country. It's also going to be a problem here in Portugal because it has been something that has happened over the years. And Spain and Portugal, both countries where people need to leave to find a job. So we'll see in coming years what the situation is like there. Now, I saw somebody say in the comment section that the United States economy had also crashed enormously. Well, it did. I think it was about 9.5% in that quarter. Somebody in the comment section saying that it was 33% or something like that. But that's an annual statistic, not a quarterly statistic. But basically, the fall in the economy between both of those countries is about double. USA 9.5 for that quarter and Spain 18.5. So a lot more serious in Spain. And if you put it into the same terms, if we talk about that annual statistic, it's around 52 or 53% in Spain and around 33% in the USA. But it doesn't really matter which way you look at it, both terrible figures for the economy and the oncoming months and the huge unemployment problems that we are going to have in both countries. But I'll just reiterate that some countries recover quicker than others. And as I said in Spain, we'll see how long it takes. Now, I also mentioned in yesterday's video about Madrid. Apparently, the situation in Móstoles is out of control. If you don't know the Madrid community, Móstoles is a city south of Madrid. It is a big city, very cramped living, and apparently there is an outbreak which is a little bit out of control at the moment. And that, of course, is causing the Madrid community to panic because, as we saw at the beginning of the year, Madrid was the hardest hit city in Spain. It was the main hotspot of the pandemic, and of course people worried again that it is going to be a problematic area in Spain because it is the capital city, it is the biggest city in Spain, and there are very cramped living conditions in Madrid. And of course nobody wants to see the hospital system collapse again like we saw in March, April, May in the Madrid community. So hoping that the situation can be contained in the Madrid community. Now, also some good news about the situation in Murcia. Totana, of course, is continuing in a lockdown situation, but apparently the mayor of Mazarrón has come out and said that that particular area is not going to go into a phase 1 lockdown situation. So good news there. Not really sure what the situation is in Murcia, why it has become a hotspot. I imagine it's got something to do with people that have come in to pick fruit and pick vegetables in that area, because Murcia is one of the main vegetable growing and fruit growing areas in Spain. So I can only imagine that that is one of the main reasons for the outbreaks there. But again, if anybody is living in that area and knows something different, let me know. Now, also a bit of feedback about the word pom. I mentioned it in yesterday's video. Pom or pommy. It's a word that Australians call people from England. Not really sure on where it originated from. Some people said that it means prisoner of Mother England. Don't really know if that's true or not. I've heard other explanations. I saw online that one definition could be from pomegranate, which is rhyming slang for immigrant. pomegranate, pom, pommy. That could be one of the main reasons. But as I said, it is a bit of a derogatory word that we use in Australia to describe people from England. And the word gets thrown around a lot when there's a cricket tour on, for example, an Ashes tour, or some other type of sporting event. And I'm sure people in England also have a word for people in Australia. But it's a bit of banter that we throw back and forth between each other. Of course, Australia and England have quite a close history. A lot of people originating from that part of the world. I myself, if I go back and look at my family tree, all of my ancestors come from that part of the world, whether it be England, Ireland, Scotland. I, for example, don't have any relatives in the United Kingdom, but a lot of people in Australia do have cousins and other relatives there. A lot of Aussies also have British passports. It's not my case because the majority of my family members came out to Australia in the 1870s, 1880s. Some people went there looking for gold. One of my mother's relatives was a police officer who was sent down there to work. So we have that common history, and that's how we use the word POM. Now, I saw another question about the Spanish health service. Somebody said that they were looking to go to Spain for an operation, asking what the health system is like in Spain. From personal experience, I can say that it is quite good. I don't think it's the best system in the world, but I've been happy with the service that I have received. I have had a couple of minor surgeries done, had a more serious operation a couple of years ago, and I see a few specialists, for example, a dermatologist that I see every year, and another specialist as well, and I think it's pretty good. Doctors seem to know what they are doing, and the hospitals in Madrid seem to work fairly well, so I've got no complaints with the Spanish health service. Now, I saw somebody else said that it seems a little bit ironic at the moment that Spain is crying about the losses in the tourism sector when there was an anti-tourist movement a couple of years ago. People didn't want so many tourists coming, this mass tourism that we can see, especially on the Mediterranean coast areas, places like Benidorm, places down there in Malaga. And I think even in the Balearic Islands, there was a bit of an anti-tourist movement. But I think that's only a minority of people. I think the majority of people live with tourism. They understand the importance of tourism on the economy, and people live with it. Of course, it must be a little bit uncomfortable if you are living in a place like Palma de Mallorca and all of a sudden your city or island gets invaded by tourists. But as I said, people have been living with it for a long time, and the majority are used to it. But there's always going to be a few people that don't like tourism, and in cities like Barcelona also, where it has been out of control in recent years, you're going to see a lot of anti-tourist graffiti around the place. You don't really see it so much in Madrid, just mainly in those areas where they also have other political problems. The anti-tourist movement pops up every now and again, so that's basically what it is. But it's also interesting to see how this current situation that we have in Spain has made all of those other problems go away. You don't really hear too much about the independence movement in Catalonia anymore. You don't really hear much about this anti-tourism movement. All of those other problems have been pushed to the back pages. No doubt they will pop up again in coming years, but at the moment they seem to be very quiet. And another topic that's been popping up in the comment section is that about those places in Spain that are very tourist orientated, places where people can come from the UK or Germany and feel like they are at home, people that are not interested in getting immersed in Spanish culture, people that are not interested in eating a lot of Spanish food. They go to these places that cater for them, and I think that's a mistake. I think that Spain is a country that does offer a lot. It does offer a rich culture, a rich history. There's lots of monuments around the place. You can really go back in time and experience a wonderful country if you get out of places like Benidorm, which are basically a concrete jungle, and that mass tourism model that we spoke about before. Benidorm is the perfect example of that. But there's so many places in Spain that you can visit, so many things that you can see, and it is a wonderful country from that point of view if you step outside the box and try to experience a little bit of the country. Language is a problem, but you can learn the language. And if you are planning to come and live in Spain, as I have mentioned in a lot of videos, it's fundamental to learn the language. Spanish is not difficult if you put in the time, if you put in the effort. You will be able to speak the language. For example, when I started learning Spanish, it was difficult. I had trouble, but once you start picking up the past tense verbs, once you start picking up the future tense verbs, remembering some of the vocabulary, you can master the language, and it does make for a better experience in the country, in my opinion. And I'll just quickly talk about the situation in this part of the world where I am here now. This is also an area that depends on tourism, and of course this year not as many people around as other years. The local celebrations which were scheduled to take place this weekend have been seriously cut back. Every year they have a procession here. I think that's still going to go ahead. They're also going to have some type of fireworks, but of course all of the normal things that they would normally have here, all of the rides for kids, all of the food stalls and all of those things are nowhere to be seen. And of course that means that a lot of people are not going to come to this part of the world this year. There are a few foreign tourists around. I've noticed some people from Germany, people from the north of Europe. There's lots of Spanish people coming here now. So there is a little bit of tourism around, but of course compared to other years, nowhere near the same level. So that's what's going on here in Portugal at the moment as well. Of course, the problems in the bigger cities, in Lisbon, Porto, for example, there are some problems with the health situation. And of course, that is stopping people from coming to this place. And Portugal, of course, still on the blacklist for some countries in Europe that don't think it's safe to recommend visiting this country this year. But from what I've seen here, people are taking the health situation seriously. People are wearing masks. Restaurants are cleaning tables down. People are doing what they need to do in order to keep their business open. And the tourists that are here are respecting the new rules and regulations in Portugal this year. But as I said, not a normal year. Now on that note, I'll start to wrap the video up. Questions or comments, please leave them in the section below. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. See you in the next one. Hasta luego.